Hey everyone, I'm Harish. I'm a principal engineer at Verizon. My expertise or focus is on product analytics, machine learning, advanced analytics to improve the product, and I focus on personal cloud product. And I'm excited to be here. So today I'm going to speak about in-app ratings and how they can actually help product leaders, product teams, or even analytics teams as well to uncover user behavior insights, very critical insights to improve the product, and also like use that to personalize the experience using machine learning, artificial intelligence, and so on. So let me start by first talking about what is like in-app rating. So quickly defining it. So what you typically see on App Store, if it is iOS or Google Play Store, those are referred to as like App Store ratings. And then within the app, when you're navigating the application, when you use certain features or towards the end, you sometimes might have seen you get like a pop-up asking you to rate the app, and some of these ratings actually take you to the app store where you can rate the product, or it's captured within the app itself. So what I'm trying to highlight is that how app store ratings don't have a lot of merits that in-app ratings have, and hence product teams should really prioritize and focus on in-app ratings to improve their product. So uh, let me start by also helping you understand what are the limitations of app store ratings. So first thing is, if let's say you might have actually seen these ratings or reviews when you try to download an application from Google Play Store or Apple Store, there is a lot of like ratings and reviews. Sometimes there are rants, sometimes there are like irrelevant reviews for a particular product, a lot of spam content, etc. And so you see sometimes this noise in the app store. And second, these application storekeepers, gatekeepers like Apple and Google are also trying to like remove all the spam and noise so that you can actually see what are the most relevant ratings and reviews. But having said that, the first limitation is that there's no context on the user. So if you look at a rating or a review as a product manager, a product leader, you don't have any context on who the user is, when did they start using this application, what plan they are part of, um, what geography. Like there's absolutely no context on who the user is. So sometimes you can just get like a sentiment out of what the users are complaining about or talking about, but you really don't know the context behind the rating or behind the review. So hence that important data is lost, and that's the biggest limitation, I would say, for app store ratings. The second part is adverse selection. So typically, because there is some effort to go to an app store and give a rating and a review, and usually there are like two types of users I've typically seen. Some users don't really care, don't bother to do it. Some people are very passionate about it, they're constantly like rating or reviewing. And out of these, sometimes you also see like unhappy customers going out of their way to give a rating and review because they really hate the product for some reason, and so on. So there is an adverse selection problem, which is most likely very unhappy people or happy customers are going and giving a rating or a review on the app store. So therefore there is not a true representation. If you go to the app store ratings, you can't really fully understand the sentiment because it's very biased, I would say, towards like unhappy users or very happy users. uh, and the last part is, which I already slightly touched upon, um, the Apple Play Store, Apple App Store, and Google Play Store. They're constantly sometimes changing the algorithm. Sometimes they're removing the spam or certain bots that are trying to create this noise, or even lower down the rating for a competitor or some politically charged behavior. Whatever the fact is, like these ratings and reviews are constantly changing, and hence you can't like really see like a good trend or a proper trend, because retrospectively also some of these reviews are and ratings are taken down. So if you go today and see the month of like April, what was the ratings and reviews, and suddenly let's say after a month again you go back to April's data, you will still see some changes. So that's why it's constantly evolving and changing. So that's why it's not like a good metric to always compare against and see the trends. So these are the three top I would say limitations for app store ratings, and that's why I was advocating for in-app ratings and how we should use them. So the first thing is very straightforward and simple. So as you can see on the graph here, you can see how many people overall rated the application, and you can also see what was the average rating. So you can easily draw trends. If it is a app store, you have to not look at cumulative ratings, because if you go on the app store today, you will see actually cumulative of historically all the ratings combined, and then you uh, can see the overall average rating, but you're not getting directly a rating for a particular month. And that's why you need to rely on certain tools that are out there to get this kind of like trend. But if it is like a in-app rating, it's very straightforward. You can actually get these results and see the trends without much changes. The next really cool advantage for in-app rating is you can actually, because you're in control of when you want to get a rating or a review from your customer on your app. um, so you can actually design these triggers the way you want it. Like for example, here you can see there is a day one trigger, you can see there's a day seven, and then you can also give a manual option where maybe they go in settings or help section or feedback section and give a rating. So you can actually design when you want this ratings to be sent based on the type of application. Most applications, the churn rate is higher in the first few days or few weeks, etc. So it's very critical to understand what the users perceive in the first few days of the application, because after that churn is pretty much stable beyond a certain point. So it's very important to get the first few days right, understand the user sentiment, and then help, which will subsequently help in retaining these users. So um, so this trigger is something that is in your control. So you can either change it based on a particular day, for example. You can also change it based on let's say performing a certain event or an activity. So if let's say I am a user, I go and use a specific feature, you can actually ask me a rating not only for the app overall but for a specific feature as well. Or maybe you want to get like a rating for onboarding experience. You can actually, after onboarding, you can ask the user, hey, do you want to rate how the onboarding was smooth or not smooth, etc. So all of these things are like advantages for in-app rating because the triggers are in your control. The next advantage for in-app rating is you can actually do a lot of like comparison to really understand what your customers care about, who are your customers, what are they happy, what makes them satisfied with the app. So for example, if you see in this charts here, there are, let's say, two plan types in this particular product. You can actually look at in-app ratings and then compare which plan has like higher satisfaction. Here you can see maybe more people have given a 5-star rating, so maybe plan one is better. And so you can actually compare different plans and understand the satisfaction score for different types of like user segments. And you can actually extend this to beyond just like plan type. You can also do it based on like a specific geography. You can see what is the satisfaction score across different geographies or across different age groups or other demographics. You can also see based on like plan type, when was the user activated, so how long have they been with the application, or the channel through which they came into the application. These can be like very powerful insights. Let's say some channel you're seeing a lower satisfaction, maybe how you're promoting it, you're overselling or not setting the right expectations to the particular customer segment coming from a specific channel. So these are the types of insights you can actually gain from this and then constantly improve. And lastly, You can also see based on features used. Let's say there's feature 1 and feature 2. You can see people who are using feature 1 giving a higher rating. So you can compare between features as well. You can compare app version as well, especially in mobile if you're constantly updating the app. And lastly, engagement. Some users are highly engaged, some are moderately engaged, some are like very dormant. So in that case also you can see actually, is that materially impacting your satisfaction. Sometimes we try to get too much engagement, we focus too much on engagement, but that might not actually lead to like positive sentiment among the users. So these are some of the insights you can actually draw if you're thinking about like in-app rating, and none of this is like really available in a app store setting. Apart from rating, because you're also like getting a review, you can actually build like cool things like this word cloud here. You can analyze the text as well in terms of what users are complaining. I mean, you can do this at app store level as well, but as I said, there's a lot of like noise. I've seen sometimes people go complain about a certain app while they're not really using that app. They want to complain about some other app, maybe they got their name wrong, etc., whatever it is. They actually complain about a different app that they're using. Let's say in the case of like Google, if Google Maps exists and Google Drive exists, and a certain user of Google Map might go on Google Drive app rating and then give a poor rating. They're saying that, oh, Google Map is not the best app out there. So there are a lot of these like external factors and noise, but in an in-app setting, you are actually removing all this noise. You can really see what the your users are talking about, and remove all the spam. The next thing I wanted to highlight was like churn versus like rating kind of analysis. So you can do a lot of this thing in the app, and it will give you very powerful insights, leading indicators sometimes. So let's go through this charts first. So the first chart is just an analysis of these are the customers who deactivated in a certain period of time. You can actually see what was the rating they had given, and this is the churn rate based on like different 5-star rating or 1-star rating and so on. So you can see here, for example, people who have given 1-star rating, out of that like 30%, 36% users have churned. So now, looking at this kind of data, you can draw like very powerful insights. The first one, for example, you can see here, users who, out of the users who deactivated in a certain period of time, 71% gave a 1-star rating and 17% gave a 5-star rating. So it clearly indicates that, people who are upset and are giving 1-star rating, after that, after a certain period of point, and they decided to deactivate. So by capturing this users segment who are 1-star rating users, you can actually sort of preemptively predict that these users are more likely to deactivate compared to, let's say, a 5-star rating. Similarly, you can see here 36% of users who gave 1-star rating and 11% who gave 5-star rating. This is the churn. So you can again, similar analysis where you can see if it's a 1-star rating, very high likeliness to churn versus a 5-star rating. Uh, Last one I wanted to highlight is, you can also see which version of the app people are using and where is the churn rate mostly. So you can compare between versions as well, where is the churn rate high. So this is a very important thing, because you're actually getting this information from users. Like, users are telling you that, okay, we are going to deactivate in a certain period of time, and we are expressing to you that we are unhappy. So this information can be very powerful, because ultimately you can figure out like various techniques and various approaches to really retain them, because they're telling you they're not happy with your application. So you can develop a lot of mechanisms or approaches to retain them. Apart from like, so far we've covered like a lot of like simple analytics to just compare, etc., but you can do like more sophisticated analysis, advanced analytics as well. For example, this is a navigation of the mobile application. So this shows if a user is entering from a certain point of the application, how are they navigating, and each of these nodes represent an individual feature or an event within the app, and the lines indicate the path between those features. And you can see the thicker lines indicate how frequently they're taking that particular path. So now if you look at this graph here, you can actually draw a lot of, like, again, very good insights here. And I know this conference is also a lot about, like, Graph+AI, so this is a very interesting analysis here. So for unhappy users, I was able to develop something like this. And so for these users who give 1 star rating, you can actually see what were the paths that they have taken in the app. You can see what features that they mostly use, how are they maybe stuck at a certain dead end within the navigation, what are the things that they mostly cared about. So you can actually drill down, go deeper into each of these, like, 1 star rated users or like 5 star rating users. You can actually understand what makes them happy or what is making them unhappy, and based on that you can actually try to develop hypotheses and maybe potentially surfacing some of the new features that are hard to discover. Let's say if certain users who are giving poor satisfaction, maybe they are not able to discover certain features, so that's why you can improve your user experience to be able to do that. The next one, on the right side, is sort of like engagement versus, like, star rating comparison. So let's say if a user has gone onto the app 26 times in a month, versus this user has gone like for 41 times in the app in a month they've opened the app. So you can actually see people who have given, have more engagement, have given a 5 star rating, versus people who have not engaged as much. So again, these are like just correlations and not causality, but you can actually do it not just at an app level, but you can also do it at a feature level, where you can see, is engagement with the feature, engagement with the app, leading to like a higher satisfaction score or not. So those are important things, because as I said earlier, product managers, product leaders are always pushing for engagement, but you really don't know if that engagement is translating to user happiness or not. Someone is engaged doesn't mean that they're necessarily happy with it. So these are some of the advanced things that one could do. You can run more sophisticated correlations, not only with like engagement versus like 1 star 5 star. You can do it with churn, which we already discussed. You can also do it with app errors. Let's say there are bugs in your app, you see a lot of like errors in the app. So you can see how many people, let's say someone got like on average 5 bugs in a month versus someone who got 10 bugs in a month. Is it actually like affecting the user experience or the user satisfaction? So you can do lot of those advanced analytics and correlations when you once you have all this data collected for in-app rating. And so, lastly, just wanted to highlight that network analysis can be very powerful to be able to help understand how the users are navigating within the app. You can do correlation coefficients and you can calculate those. You can actually see what is the shortest path from like one feature to the other. So you can do a lot of like network analysis and then draw insights from that. The last thing I wanted to touch upon is, how do you now, you've collected all this analysis, you've done like some very simple analytics, you've done like more advanced analytics, so you really now can understand a bit more about the user, what makes them happy, what is making them unhappy. You also know that what kind of users are unhappy or what kind of users are happy. Now what can you do with all this data? So the most important is, like, once you have this data, you can really personalize this entire experience for the user. So what I mean by that is, let's say if I'm a happy user, you can actually show me different set of like features or designs or marketing promotions on the home screen, which is where most people tend to come and spend most time on. So versus if I'm an unhappy user, you can show me completely different things. So as I said, the first thing is identify happy customers. You already have that app rating that they've given you, which is 5 star. So you can now, for these specific users, actually let's say promote other products, you can cross sell, and you can ask them to upgrade maybe because they like your service so much. Next, you can actually see based on feature rating, because not only at an app level, now you have this rating at a feature level. You can actually see or rank the features. You can develop machine learning models or even simple algorithms where you automatically rank how on the home screen the features are showing up. So that's another cool thing that you one could do. The next one, you can, as I mentioned, if there are unhappy users, you can actually understand that they're unhappy, so you can potentially show them, like give them discounts, or if you know that they care about certain features, you can actually highlight them at the top, and you can see maybe the low priority ones at the bottom. So these are like methods and ways you can easily personalize the experience. And ultimately, what is this personalization going to do? It's going to retain your users if someone is likely to churn. It's going to get higher ARPU or revenue for users who are happy. So that's the objective. um, but this personalization can really help. One thing I wanted to add is sometimes you also have to ensure that the front end or the user experience can actually also be personalized. So you have to work with engineers and designers to really think of it as like small components or building blocks on your front end, and how you can maybe change things around or reorder them, etc., to be able to do all this personalization. Some applications, they're already flexible and have those building blocks. Some applications are more rigid. So you also have to think about, from an architecture point of view, from a user interface point of view, if that actually like makes sense for the app. But the first thing is like setting that architecture and design components, and then next part is using all the data analytics and advanced analytics, etc., to build simple algorithms or machine learning models to be able to ultimately personalize. So lastly, I wanted to conclude by saying that I assume that a lot of you are thinking about in-app ratings by now, and or maybe even collecting it. Now you can start thinking about, if you're not already doing this, think about what are the more interesting analytics that you can perform to uncover your user needs, really understand the user, or even do this advanced analytics or personalization that we spoke about to significantly improve your product. And this is all in the context of mobile application that we spoke about, but you can actually expand this to any product, sometimes even at a store level, sometimes on a website as well, beyond just the mobile application. So again, I wanted to thank everyone for this opportunity, and hope this talk was useful and insightful. Thank you so much.